What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler. First things first, Happy New Year. I hope you and your families had a great holiday, and welcome to the new decade. We're in the Roaring 20s, I guess is what people are calling it. Hopefully it ends a little bit better than the last Roaring 20s, but neither here nor there. We're not talking about history. We're talking about football, because with the new year, that means NFL postseason has finally arrived. Saturday starts Wild Card Weekend. We got 4 games to preview. I'm going to preview all of them, make my predictions as to who will win each game. And yeah, why not? Let's get started. Game number 1 I'm previewing is the Bills versus the Texans. AFC South champion Houston Texans taking on the 5-seeded Buffalo Bills of the AFC. Could have easily came close to winning the AFC East if it was not for a few games here and there, because they played the Patriots very competitively. The Buffalo Bills did. That game will be played on Saturday, January 4th in Houston. It's the first game of the postseason, so a lot of high stakes there. For Buffalo, the defense has been the team's identity this season, and it has been for the last few years ever since Sean McDermott took over as head coach. They rank 3rd in yards per game allowed, 4th in fewest passing yards per game, and 10th in rushing yards allowed per game. The defense also ranks 2nd in scoring, allowing just over 16 points per game. They are holding opponents to low-scoring numbers, and that might be crucial against a very solid Houston Texans offense. They're also really good at getting opposing offenses off the field on 3rd down, as opposing offenses are only able to convert 35.8% of their 3rd downs. And the defensive line is arguably the best part of this team, of this defensive unit, They are led by Jordan Phillips, who has recorded 31 tackles as well as 9.5 sacks, has been dominant all season long for Buffalo. Offense has been solid for the most part. Josh Allen has improved greatly from year 1 to year 2, really coming into his own, throwing for over 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, and improving his completion percentage by 6% from 52.8 to 58.8. Allen has also been a dual-threat quarterback, not to the extent of his other draft partner, Lamar Jackson, but Allen has rushed for 9 touchdowns, has been able to make plays with his legs, which forces defenses to be honest, because Allen has a monster of an arm, can really sling the ball anywhere, finding guys like John Brown and Cole Beasley. But when he's able to run with his legs, it forces defense to be a little more honest, which allows the Buffalo Bills to complete these deep passes. The issue, however, is that Allen gets hit a lot. Allen was sacked 38 times this season, 9th most amongst quarterbacks. And because Allen likes to run, like I said, he gets hit even more times, more than a normal pocket passing quarterback normally would. Rushing the ball is not this team's strong suit, as rookie Devin Singletary only rushed for 775 yards in 12 games, as he missed a few games with injury, and was still the team's leading rusher. The next closest guy was 36-year-old Frank Gore with 599 yards. Gore is a stalwart player, but he's not what he once was for the 49ers all those years ago. For Houston, prior to the season, there was a serious debate as to who would win the AFC South between the Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. But with Andrew Luck retiring, it seems that Houston has now a firm grip on the division for the next 5 to 6 years, barring anything crazy at least. I mean, the Titans played well toward the end of the year, but I don't see them keeping that up down the road. We'll talk about the Tennessee Titans a little bit later. But the reason for why I think the Texans have a firm grip on this division for the next few years is because of the tandem they have on offense with quarterback Deshaun Watson and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, 2 of the top players at their positions. Especially for Watson, it seems like he has cemented himself as a top 6 quarterback in the NFL, along with guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady slipping out a little bit. And with some of the latter guys I just mentioned getting a little older, in the 2020s, Brees will be in his mid-40s. Brady will be approaching his mid-40s. Rodgers, by 2025, he'll be in his 20th year in the NFL. He'll be close to 40. Big Ben's starting to get out of the league, etc., etc. So it'll really be, Watson will be up there as a top 4, top 3 quarterback for the 2020s, along with Jackson, Mahomes, and Russell Wilson, and any other guys that might come out. Because obviously, like Baker Mayfield, he could probably bounce back. Josh Allen might blow up. You never know. Watson did regress slightly this season statistically from year 2, throwing for over 3,800 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, but had multiple moments during the season where if he didn't make a play, the Texans would not be where they are. Like one perfect example is, I believe it was a game against the Raiders. Watson gets kicked in the face, thought he lost his eyeball, and is still completed a touchdown pass. Houston went on to win that game. If Watson just drops to the ground in pain, Houston might not win that game, and they might not be where they are. They might have missed the playoffs, and then some serious questions would have arose about this Houston Texans team. Hopkins has been stellar once again, catching 104 passes for over 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. Maybe not what we expected if they drafted him like in fantasy football, but still very solid numbers for a number 1 wide receiver. Similar to Buffalo, Houston has difficulty protecting Deshaun Watson, although they have gotten better with the addition of Larry Tunsil in a trade with Miami at the start of the year. Their pass protection has slowly gotten better throughout the course of the season. Defense has been an issue for Houston, however, as they rank 28th in team defense in the NFL. And they did take a big hit when they traded Jadeveon Clowney to Seattle at the beginning of the year. And when J.J. Watt went down with a torn pectoral, people thought, okay, all hope is lost for this defense. I don't even know if Houston can make the playoffs. Watt's back. J.J. Watt is coming back for this game, at least from what we're saying. He tore that pec, like I said, 2 months ago. And how much of an impact he will have, we really don't know. It's J.J. Watt. He's one of the best defensive players of the past decade. But that's a torn pectoral muscle. It's a very fast recovery. I don't know the severity of what the injury was when it originally happened. But you have to imagine J.J. Watt will still have an impact. Ultimately, however, I do think Buffalo wins this game. I think Watson will do everything in his power to keep his squad in it and help them advance. But I think the defense for Buffalo will be able to make a play late to stifle this Houston offense. And I think Josh Allen has a strong performance in his first ever playoff game. I think Buffalo will win 27-20 in Houston, going on to the divisional round. Game number 2 on Saturday will feature the AFC East champion and reigning Super Bowl champion, New England Patriots, as the 3 seed. Man, that's weird to say. And the second wild card team in Tennessee Titans. Not going to lie, I'm going to keep this one short because I don't see this game being uber competitive. The Titans have had success against the Patriots in the past, but that's in the regular season. Mike Vrabel is the head coach for Tennessee, knows his Patriots team inside and out because he played for them for a long time. But the Patriots are the Patriots. In the playoffs, they turn it on to a high level. I think the only chance I give the Titans is if Derrick Henry can carry the offense. I don't think Ryan Tannehill, although he's played phenomenal all season long since he took over the starting job from Marcus Mariota, I just don't think he could go into Foxborough in a playoff game where he has not had much success when he was in Miami to really help this Titans offense against one of the top pass defenses. Yes, the Patriots' pass defense has dropped off slightly toward the end of the year, but they have been stellar for the most part all season long. I think Derrick Henry, he was the NFL's leading rusher in 2019 rushing for over 1,500 yards. He also had 16 touchdowns on top of that. The Patriots have had trouble in the past stopping really good running backs. And I think if Henry can get himself going, the Titans have a chance. But for New England, this is the first time they haven't had a first-round bye in a long time. And when they don't have a first-round bye in the Belichick-Brady era, they're 3-3. And that partially because they lost that game to Miami in Week 17 and a Kansas City win. So I think the Patriots will have more of a chip on their shoulder. They're going to come out hungry because they think they screwed that up. They messed it up against Miami. They should have won that game. They should have had the bye. They shouldn't be playing this week. And that's saying it as a Giants fan. I would love to see the Patriots lose. But realistically, there's no chance in my mind, at home, in the playoffs, coming off a really bad loss against Miami, that the Patriots lose this game. Working for the Patriots, however, is that they are still at home, as I mentioned, and they have one of the best defenses statistically in the NFL and arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. The issue for that, for Tom Brady at quarterback, is that he has no one to throw to outside of Julian Edelman, who even hasn't had a great year. The Patriots receivers and tight ends have been horrendous all year long, dropping balls left and right, and that could hurt the Patriots down the road. I don't see it happening this week, and with the running backs not being as stellar as one might have thought at the beginning of the year, the running backs have been the top pass catchers. N'Keal Harry has been horrible as a rookie. Yes, he missed a lot of the season due to injury, but still. Ben Watson at tight end hasn't been great. Philip Dorsett, I don't even know if he's still on the team, but I don't think he's played that well. They cut Josh Gordon midway through the year, and there was a lot of promise for him. The loss of Rob Gronkowski has really hurt this team, but ultimately, the Patriots have so much more experience in the playoffs than the Titans do. I think they win 35-17 at home. Game number 3. This game will be played on Sunday. It will feature the NFC South champion New Orleans Saints and the second wildcard team in the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings out of the NFC North. This game will be played in New Orleans on Sunday, January 5th. So the AFC games are played on Saturday, the NFC on Sunday. Nice way to spread it out, in my opinion. But this is a rematch of a game that happened in the playoffs a few years ago, January 14th, 2017. You might remember it as something called the Minneapolis Miracle. Yeah, Stephon Diggs down the sideline, a pass from Case Keenum, a blown tackle by, I believe it was P.J. Williams for the Saints, and Diggs in the divisional round scores a touchdown. Vikings win a walk-off. They go to Philadelphia the next week and lose in the NFC Championship. But that has been the last 2 years for New Orleans. They lost in the Minneapolis Miracle in 2017, and then they had that blown call in the NFC Championship last year. So the Saints have had really rough times in the postseason, and I think for this time, this is not going to be the same. They're at home, and for the Saints, their offense has been the team's bread and butter all year, and it starts and ends with Drew Brees. Even missing 5 games due to a hand injury, Brees threw for almost 3,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions at the age of 40. The guy's 40 years old and is still slinging it, and in the process became the all-time leader in the NFL and for passing touchdowns, surpassing Peyton Manning, and then Tom Brady's right on his tail, but Brees has still got the record as of right now. Brees' favorite target, Michael Thomas, who set the NFL record for most catches in a single season with 149. Thomas also went for over 1,700 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. That's just insane numbers. Thomas has cemented himself as probably the best receiver in the NFL right here, right now. The issue for New Orleans is that after Thomas, the passing options are very limited. Alvin Kamara is a very solid receiving back, but has regressed this season, and he missed a lot of time due to injury. After Thomas, the Saints' next 2 receiving leaders were Jared Cook and Kamara. It's just not great. And in terms of wide receivers, the Saints roster, Thomas has more touchdowns, 9-7, more catches, 149-56, and more receiving yards, 1,725 to 692. That's just Michael Thomas against all the other wide receivers on the Saints team. So it's going to be a struggle maybe down the road if the Saints have to go on the road to play Green Bay. The Niners defense is really solid. The Seahawks defense is pretty good. It's just going to be an issue, I think, eventually. The Saints might run into a wall where if a really good quarterback is on Michael Thomas and shuts him down. Don't see that happening. But if that happens, who is Drew Brees going to throw to? On defense, the Saints have not been great. Only one guy has more than 1 interception, and that's Marcus Williams with 4. Demarius Davis led the team in tackles with 111, but that was only good for 24th in the NFL. The next closest guy was Von Bell, who had 89, good enough for only 50th in the league. In the sacks department, however, the Saints ranked 3rd in that category in the NFL with 51 team sacks, 15 and a half of which came from Cameron Jordan alone. That guy is a monster. He's going to be pressuring Kirk Cousins all day long, and I think the Minnesota offensive line will have an issue. For the Minnesota Vikings, it was a bit of a rocky start for the team's offense, Cousins was having difficulty finding Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, but eventually they turned things around. Cousins completed 69.1% of passes, throwing for over 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And with Thielen out for most of the year with a hamstring injury, only having 418 yards but 6 touchdowns, catching 40 passes, Diggs really came out and shined. There was a moment during the season where people thought, okay, Diggs is going to get traded. He doesn't want to be in Minnesota anymore. And then he just went off. He had a couple big games against Philadelphia. I remember one. And that all led to him having 63 receptions for over 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns, dominant all year long. The running game has greatly improved as well. Dalvin Cook has been healthy for the majority of the season, which he can't say for his first couple years in the league. He's rushed for over 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, and was in the conversation for the MVP for the majority of the first half of the year. Cook did miss the last 2 games of the season with a shoulder injury, and his status for Sunday is still in question. The team is saying that Cook is at full strength, but we really don't know. You see these in these big games. Even if guys are injured, they're going to play to keep defenses honest, but you really don't know what the status is for Cook. The defense is not what it once was, but it's still very solid, allowing the 6th fewest points per game, allowing just under 19 points. Sacking the quarterback the 6th most times with 48, led by Danielle Hunter with 14 and a half. Hunter is like Cam Jordan. Those 2 guys, they're going to be going back and forth, sacking the quarterback, in my opinion. They are also middle of the road in yards allowed, averaging 341.6 yards per game allowed. Ultimately, I don't see the Vikings putting up much of a fight. I mentioned that the Saints got robbed last year in the NFC Championship. There was a Minneapolis Miracle 2 years ago. And I think this is their revenge for that, and then to prove that they are still one of the top teams in the NFC despite being the 3 seed. They also have one of the best home field advantages in the entire NFL. So I think New Orleans wins 44-21 over Minnesota to go on to the next round, and where they will play the Green Bay Packers because they are the 3 seed. All right, the fourth and final game. Like the Pats-Titans game, I'm going to keep this one short and sweet because although the Eagles are at home and they are the NFC East champions, the Seahawks are really good. And they could have easily won the NFC West had they not lost 3 of their last 4 games during the regular season. These 2 teams met back in Week 12. That game was in Philadelphia. Seattle won 17-9. Do I think that round 2 will be a low-scoring game as well? No. Do I think it will be a barn burner? No. I do think both teams played rather sloppy football in that Week 12 matchup, and I think for that reason, Seattle has an edge because they are a much more well-rounded team in terms of health. They did lose their 2 top running backs in Rashad Penny and Chris Carson to injury, and they're done for the year, but they brought back Marshawn Lynch, a guy who hasn't played in a while and is at 35 years of age, but he looked good against the 49ers, had that 1 touchdown left over the defensive line and the offensive line. Russell Wilson is still a dynamic running threat. They got some speedy guys in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the outside, so Pete Carroll could draw something up there for any of those guys. For Philadelphia, the Eagles has been riddled with injuries all season long. Their top 3 wide receivers have been out for the majority of the year. I believe they're all out for the year, actually. Alshon Jeffrey, I don't know if he's coming back. I know for a fact Nelson Aguilar and Deshaun Jackson are done for the year. I'm 99% sure of that. Brandon Brooks, the offensive guard, is out with a shoulder injury for the season. He sustained that injury in Week 17 against the Giants. Zach Ertz didn't play last week, the tight end. He had a back injury. He probably will be back, but I don't see him having a huge impact. And then Jordan Howard, he's been in and out of the lineup all year long with injury. He came back last couple weeks ago. Looked solid, but you really don't know. And then much, much more injuries on top of that. All that being said, Carson Wentz still had a great year. Throwing for over 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And this is also going to be Wentz's first playoff game since he was injured the last 2 postseasons. So I think he's going to try to prove that he is a very solid quarterback because Nick Foles' first postseason run led him to the Super Bowl win over the Patriots. Last year, they won that game against Chicago off the double doink and then nearly beat New Orleans in the playoffs in the divisional round. So maybe Wentz is going to come out with a chip on his shoulder. But the test for Wentz is that the Seattle defense is so solid. They feature guys like the NFL's leading tackler and Bobby Wagner, Jadeveon Clowney, KJ Wright, Trey Flowers, Shaq Griffin, among others. And the Seattle defense has been really good all year. I mentioned Wagner, top tackler in the NFL. He is a beast at middle linebacker, and I think they'll be able to get some pressure on Wentz due to this weakened offensive line. Brooks is out, as I mentioned. Lane Johnson has been dealing with injuries. Jason Peters has been dealing with injuries. And then Russell Wilson has just been phenomenal on offense for this team. He's been putting up MVP-type numbers once again this year. And ultimately, I have Seattle winning this one 30-20. Seattle's just overall a much better team than Philadelphia. Having home field advantage might help the Eagles, but I just can't see them getting past the Seattle Seahawks squad. So, yeah, Seattle wins 30-20 on the road against Philadelphia. So, to recap, in the AFC, I have Buffalo beating Houston and New England beating Tennessee. That means Buffalo will go on to play Baltimore next week, and New England will go on to play Kansas City next week. In the NFC, I have New Orleans and Seattle, meaning Seattle will go play the 49ers for round 3, and the Packers and the Saints will meet up in Lambeau. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think my predictions are right? Let me tell me your predictions for Wildcard Weekend and the NFL playoffs as a whole. Who's your pick to win the Super Bowl? We'll get to mine a little bit later down the road. Stay tuned for next week, though, as I preview the divisional round in the NFL playoffs. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.